If the seventh graders lost privilege, if the seventh graders got in trouble, their consequences were a loss of technology privilege. They would finish their homework and classwork super fast so they could have time to get on their phones and play games. So like it really did take a toll on them if they couldn't do that. And both grades were punished by the principal if their behavior was too disorderly. Miss Sherrard would. I've only seen her do it once, but a student was out of control. She only threatened to call Mr. Corzine if the student didn't calm down, but the student got his act together and he stopped misbehaving. Ms. Sherrard's students on class management. I think the students really did respect Ms. Sherrard a lot due to her age and her experience. So they never questioned her authority. They never pushed her buttons. They were on their best behavior in her class, and that wasn't true for all the other classrooms. So things that I've learned from Ms. Sherrard that not all the students are on the same level. You can't treat them all. You can't have high expectations for each student when there's students that can't be on that same level. Routine is what made her class have like the best class management. The students came in and they knew what to do. They had it down, so there was not any time for misbehavior. And then the last one, don't let others' opinions influence your own. Ms. Sherrard told me that there were the other teachers that taught the seventh graders did not like them at all. She said they said that they were unruly and just disrespectful, but they never displayed that in Miss Sherrard's class. I think it has a lot to do with how she taught and that she showed them respect too. So they didn't misbehave. Some things that I've learned, some things that I would take away from Miss Sherrard's classroom is a good way to keep the students focused is that she had a bucket of candy, and every time she made a mistake, the students would get a piece of candy if they called her out on it. So the students were always engaged and focused, waiting for her to make a mistake so they could say, hey, you did this wrong, you got a piece of candy. And it was always a rush to do it. So only one person got a piece of candy per mistake. And so they wanted to be the one to call her on it. So in order that they have to be paying attention. The students were more eager to learn if they got their answers checked right away. Instead of doing their homework at home and bringing it back and having it graded within the next 2 or 3 days, the students were able to get their homework graded. If they finished it in class, write that in there. They wanted to see if they did it right. They were proud when they got it right. So they were more eager to learn that way. Things that I would not carry with me from Miss Sherrard's classroom, not lesson planning. I don't understand how she managed to get it all together, but there was not a lesson plan like anywhere. I did not like that at all. I need structure in my classroom, like for my own sake. Not having activities. Her class was kind of boring when it came down to it. Yeah, the students were learning, but they were bored. They were bored. They were doing the same thing every single day. They didn't have activity, they didn't have collaboration time. It was just not done. So I would want and whenever I did my micro teaching, the students were collaborating, they were doing activities, they were doing hands-on stuff, they loved it, and they were still learning. So I got to see how she did it and then how I want to do it whenever I start teaching. And then one other thing, like not informing the students on what they're learning, like I mentioned earlier about the histograph thing, the students don't know what they're learning. You're just teaching them stuff, but they don't know what it's called. So you ask them to recall what they were doing, they can't do it. Or you ask them to do something, they're like, oh, I don't know what that is. And you have to say, oh, remember when we did this, this, and this? Like, oh yeah, that's what that was. But they don't know what it's called. You have to teach them what it is that you're teaching them. And then my final thoughts altogether is that not all teachers have the same teaching method, but it works. I wouldn't teach the way Ms. Sherrard taught her class, but it works for her, and students did get it. I would do more hands-on approach in my classroom. So the students are more involved, they're getting it, they're engaged, they're collaborating, they're communicating. That's what I want to do in my class. And also kind of like what Ms. Sherrard was doing, like just because you're used to doing, like some advice I would love to give Ms. Sherrard is that just because you're used to doing something a certain way doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it a different way. She's been teaching for 15 years, math for 15 years, and she's kind of stuck in her ways of doing things. But I would like for her, for the students' sakes, to learn how to do stuff differently, do more hands-on approach, getting the students the guiding questions and the focus questions, let them know what they're doing and why they're doing it. It will make her class, I feel like, better all around. And then here are my resources from where I got this information from. That's about it. Thank you.